Welcome back to Life at Cyber. This is our first book club. This is for January 2024. We're going over The Algebra of Happiness by Scott Galloway. We're joined today by John and the lovely Laura. Hello. So today for the kickoff of the book club, we decided to bring in a guest for a few reasons. But one, because she loves reading, but two, because this book, if you read it, is very much from the male perspective. And as meaningful as that is to a guy like me or to a person like John, how does that relate from a woman's perspective? Because there's a lot of lessons in here that we feel like could potentially be universal, but honestly, best thing to do is ask. So, what did you all think of the book?
Put me on the spot right away. I have to say, in all honesty, this is the first book that I have finished that was not a fiction book.
A self-help book,
yeah,
right?
self book from start to finish. I've read sections of books. I've read started some books. Some books I just could not finish. John knows exactly which one I just refuse to. In another book club, I couldn't.
It's the same book I can't finish. It's the one that Josh, I think, brought up in the other episode that we were all like, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah. I saw there was a lot of stuff in there that was very relatable to, both men and women. And he does actually explain in the book that there's parts of it where it is the male side, and he even explains it. He is a male. He's writing this in the male experience. He doesn't know what the female experience would be in most of it. I do find quite a bit of it relatable, whereas some of it was not as much relatable to me as it wasn't part of my education, career, life. But it was still interesting to hear about those aspects that he had.
I think one of the things that I took away from it too, I mean, I know it's in the title saying the Algebra of Happiness, but everything in the book was talking about gratitude and finding different happiness stems. Because like it was kind of funny. I think one of the part of the books that I really liked was it's right on even on the back cover saying, boring is sexy when it comes to your career is one of the things he was talking about. And he said, your career is not supposed to be, the most glamorous thing in your life. And if that is the most glamorous thing in your life, you really need to rethink your life, right? What's bringing you happiness in life and why is your career number one?
One of the things that I thought was interesting about this book, and I'll briefly go over kind of the format. It's kind of split into a couple chapters, which if you read it front to back, those chapters very much seem like the evolution as he ages, right? But
Right.
but it's very much it's not really as mathematical as it sounds. Like the equations and graphs like this are just there for fun to kind of poke fun at what he's talking about. But it's pretty much essentially just like journal entries almost. It seems like it's just like thoughts and wisdom, and that's essentially all this is. It's not a story. There's not really narratives. There's a lot of little pocket stories going on, but the format is great. But going into the success side of it, which is kind of the beginning, like the lesson that kind of hit home for me, and this is coming from a person who still hasn't quite figured out how to be more than their job, right? The lesson here is your career can't be the only thing about you, right? Yes, a boring career can be sexy when it comes to a career, and no, it shouldn't be the only glamorous thing that you have. But more importantly, it shouldn't be the only thing that you have, right? And that was one of those points that hit home for me because I mean, I don't know if any of you have noticed, but I don't have kids. I don't have a significant other. I'm just sitting here with a cat doing a podcast for whatever reason, right?
Pizza.
I put way too much into that career aspect because I care so much about what I do because it's meaningful and I find a lot of meaning in that. But what this says, and I think the overarching, like I think resonating like message here is relationships are more important.
Right. And he kept talking about happiness and he kept saying happiness is the ultimate currency.
Mm-hmm.
He says it doesn't really matter what you do in life as long as you're happy. But at the same time, what made us happy when we were 18 changes as we mature through life. And it's kind of interesting to hear his point of the story and how he felt, what used to bring his happiness and what he would like to chase the money, right, when he was young, versus what brings him happiness and joy now that he's older and he's seen his own parents pass away, and and see their end days, and how everything in his life just shifted.
I think to add to that, there's another equation on the back of the book, on the back cover, that it's one of those things that stuck with me both inside the book and outside, where it says great vacation is greater than great car, right? And that's
Yeah.
kind of that general concept of uh it's not about the material or the currency, it's about the experiences, right? And make sure you go and do those things, right? And that's a lot of what life is about. Like if you're sitting there trying to just collect things, what are you going to do with that? Does that give you memories? Does that give you joy? Not for very long.
Right, and I think it hit home for many of us, including you there, Kenny. Right, because I mean, you have a beautiful car, right?
I don't own a car.
Exactly, but that's the beauty of it. It's
Yeah.
like you used to, but
Mhm.
then things shifted in life, right? You were like, wait a minute, why should I be wasting all my money here when I don't really need it for
Right.
right now?
I literally walk most places and ride the bus. I can
Right.
buy a car whenever I want. I just choose not to. I'd rather not.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest thing is you have the choice,
Mhm.
right? A lot of the things that he was talking about, there was like five main key lessons that I was pulling out of the book, and one of them definitely was talking about relationships and the connections with others. I mean, you were just talking about coming from happy hour, even with work colleagues. I mean, how was that tonight? Did that bring you, joy and happiness?
Yeah, I think one of the other things we were talking about earlier today to kind of add to this was like muscle tension because of stress and how much pain I've been in for the last week, right?
Right.
That's gone. That should be
Yeah.
telling in and of itself. I was in so much pain all day, and then I go to this happy hour. I have 2 beers with a coworker visiting from another state just to say hello and visit and get to know each other better and hang out with some of the people that I work with all the time without having to worry about all the politics and things that we work on all the time. And just sit there and just talk about food and swear more than we've ever heard each other say cuss words, right? And just chat and enjoy it. And the stress is gone, and
That's
it makes a huge difference. And now those relationships with those people are much more meaningful. Like one of them, the one that's visiting from out of state, like she's probably leaving soon. Like she's probably not going to be my coworker for a while. And the first thing she says is, I'm giving you my phone number. Next time you're in Florida, let's go hang out. I'm like, all right, I don't like Florida, but whatever. Like, and now I'm
yeah.
actually thinking, like, I kind of want to go to Florida now.
Now you want to go to Florida? Yeah.
But I
Go to
hate
Universal
Florida.
or
I just like
something.
this person, right?
But that's the thing is any place can be helpful and joyous just with the right company, right? I
Exactly.
really think that's the biggest piece there. Um, I know, Laura. What was one of the main things you got out of the book?
Well, there was one section that really resonated with me. It kind of feels like a situation that I've been going through, and even hit hard today too. Um, with the expansion of my role is the imposter syndrome, part of the success part. I have, and when we work in my position, it works with has board meetings, and a lot of the people in the room are a lot older than me. They're a lot farther in their careers. I am definitely the lowest person on the totem pole in that room, and they're expecting me to help run, the board meeting. And it hit even harder with the imposter syndrome today, because I expanded a role. I'm now more was involved with two of the committee meetings, that happen outside of the board meetings, to pull in the information that, from the legislative, because that's the one I was involved with. That's the one my direct boss works with, is the legislative. And we have, several laws that are going to be coming up in the legislative session. And
Yeah, but it was imposter syndrome, right? That was the key
yeah,
part. It's like I think we've all been there, right? We've all felt as an imposter. I know every one of us has felt that way. It's like, wow, why me? Why do I deserve this?
yeah,
Right.
exactly. And I'm like, what? I don't, like, I don't understand this, but I'm part of this, this committee now, and, having to provide help Exactly. Yeah. And that's definitely one of the key parts is in the book that I picked up on, was that it's not something that is unique. It's not unique to me. It's not unique to women. It's men, women, different parts of their career feel the same thing. You could be starting your career, you could be farther up in your career, and you could still feel the imposter syndrome.
That was actually one of the parts that I just showed on camera, was the concept of like it's 30% knowing you've got it and 70% having no clue. But one of the things that they actually titled that section with was know that you deserve it, know that you're worth it, right? And this is something that I think we all struggle with. And I've actually talked to psychologists about this, in the sense of like the more intelligent or the more competent you become at what you do, the more you know what you don't know. And so imposter syndrome is just a natural course of action throughout that. Once you realize how much you don't know, suddenly you have to kind of look inward and be like, how is it possible that I'm that good anymore? Like, and why did I ever think I was, right? And so this is something I think I struggle with every day, and I imagine everybody does, in the sense of like I look around and people look at me for advice, and all the time people come to me asking for career advice, life advice, help at work, anything. And they're ranking anywhere from a student employee to a C-suite executive, asking me questions of what I would do in this situation. And my answer is always the same. It's, I don't even know how to feed myself. Why are you asking me? And the answer typically comes back as, well, you have a lot of insight. You know a lot about this topic. You've known a lot of these people for a long time. What would you do in that scenario? And my answer is still, but I don't know how to feed myself. Why am I good at this stuff? And that's the thing that I never quite get past or quite grasp, is that concept of I can be good at something and be respected without knowing how to feed myself. Those two things are not mutually exclusive.
It was great because it was like, it's embrace vulnerability and authenticity is the way they worded it. And so, yeah, totally agree with you. And what's funny about it is, Kenny, you and I, all of us, we all look at each other in the mirror and we don't see ourselves as we truly are. We still see ourselves as that college student from back in the day, who really is, still learning, because I think all of us are still in that mindset. But really, it's interesting to look back and see that there's a lot of younger generation and really the students themselves that all look up at us now saying, hey, you know more than I do. Can you help me? I don't know. The book really got me a bit when it was talking about gratitude and mindfulness. And that was something like I keep trying to take away, is because, to be honest, Kenny, you probably read the book too, about the way that I was like, man, there's a lot about this guy that kind of relates. And although there were times where I think he partied more than we did, Kenny. I'm sorry to say.
I don't think anybody partied more than I did.
Oh, those are stories for another time.
Yeah.
Maybe if we do a meet and greet, in Denver or something, we'll definitely have to tell those stories around everybody. But yeah, that's something about the book that really I kept taking from, is I really liked the way the book was written as mini stories. Like with one chapter, he even started saying that he was sitting next to another guy as he was writing the book on a plane, and I don't remember if that's when he was on his way to Florida, by the way, Kenny. But at the same time, it was really cool the way that he worded it, because even if you don't have very much time to read this book, like if anyone gets the chance to read this book, you could pick it up for 5 minutes, read a section, and put it back down. It's really set up really well for that.
Well, and to add to this,
did read it like that in sections, small sections.
Yeah. To add to that, like I read this in one sitting. It only took like 3 hours, and I don't read very fast, so it's a relatively quick read, which makes it easy to digest and easy to receive the message, in my opinion. Right.
Right. I did not read the book. I took it as an audio book, and I still agree. It was one that was easy to follow, easy to, listen to, put down if you needed to. I think in the audiobook it was split up into like 37 chapters or something like that. And so even if you have like a 5 or 10 minute commute, you can listen to a section on the way to work, and then you can get through the book pretty quickly.
There's one section of the book that I don't think any of us have touched on too much yet, which is the health side towards the end, right?
Yeah.
There's a segment there where he talks about be a caretaker. And that one was interesting. That one kind of hit me a little hard in the sense of like in my circle lately, and I don't know how much I've shared this, but in 2022, a lot of people in my life that were at least close or adjacent passed away. I ended up losing 4 people like back to back to back to back. And I've lost a lot of people in my life over the years, starting from when I was young to now. And I think a lot of people were surprised with me growing up of like how much, how many people I've lost at whatever age, because I'm relatively young, right? But one of the things that I think kind of hit me here was be a caretaker in the sense of during those times, I don't know that I was. I don't necessarily regret the way that I went through some of those. Some of them were surprises, some of them were not. Some of them I had my ability to, or I had an opportunity to like share appreciation for everything they gave me before they passed, for everything that they taught me and learned me, everything that I learned from them, I should say. Like my grandfather, when he passed away, like we knew it was coming, and I sat next to him on Christmas and just told him, like, I owe my whole life to you because you taught me things. You taught me problem solving, and that's my career. That's my entire life, right? I got the chance to say those types of things, and I got the chance to say I love you to some people, but I didn't get the chance to say it to all of them, right? And that's one of those where I sit there and I look at that and I'm like, this is a really humbling reminder of learn this now, because later you're not going to get the chance. Tough topic. Sorry.
No, it was a very good topic in the book though, and it's one that he brought up many times of, it's okay to love somebody, because especially as a man, anything that prevents weakness is looked down upon in society. And he talked about it a lot, how he would kiss his own kids kind of idea, and he's like, it's okay to show affection. And I really liked his wording on that, as in, in the end, what it really matters is, the only thing that matters is happiness. It's kind of funny. I have all these little blurbs that I keep remembering from the book, and it's always just like one-liners like that. And I think that's something about this book is like you could take a ton of one-liners and just walk away with them.
I think he's designed it in that way. And the funny thing is, I was just looking at a section in the health section. I think it was called Be Strong is what it starts off as. But if you go a little bit further, somewhere in there, I can't remember exactly where, but it's literally like one section where he's like, I'm convinced that God isn't real. And that has nothing to do with what he's talking about. It's about whether or not he's being
I
an
know.
asshole or something.
I was
I'm
like,
wow.
I was on the treadmill on that section. I was like, what the hell is he getting at?
He just starts out of nowhere.
Right field.
And I think he does that on purpose, right? Like the funny thing is the writing style of this book very much reminds me of someone that I've worked with for a few years now. And I'm not going to call him out here in case he doesn't want to be. But he starts conversations very much the same way, where he's coming in and he's going to say something out of left field to get your attention, and then he'll explain what he means. And sometimes they're related, sometimes it's a bit of a stretch. But it's always rooted in some sort of wisdom or some sort of observation that helps you or him understand the world better. And I've always appreciated him for that. But it always catches you off guard. You think of it like, if you think of it like in the form of a thesis statement, it's like, this is the hook to get you to listen, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not necessarily the message.
Oh, trust me, I paid attention on that chapter. That chapter was like, it really got me. Because at first I was like, where is he headed with this, right? Mm-hmm. I think we all started that way. Like, okay, cool. Where are you going then? Let's bring it back in. And he did. It was, as you said, it was almost like a hook line, and trust me, he got me.
Oh, here it is. It's under the praise others section.
There you
go. It literally says praise others, and then I'm 100% certain there is no God. At least not the Morgan Freeman version of God. It's like, okay, fair. Right. That cracked me up. But That's actually an interesting lesson too, and something I've been learning as I get older is how do you share praise? And this kind of leans into another book, which is Love Languages. But it's not something I'm particularly strong at, and I would say that most men are particularly bad at it
Hmm.
on average.
I think the one thing that, part of the elements of family and, with relationships, seeing the male side of it was the holding hands section. That he wasn't comfortable until he had kids holding hands with anyone. And that's not something that a female grew up with. Females are always grown up with, you held hands with your friends, you hold it with your mom, your dad, all these kids. And then and then he goes in a section and says that holding hands wasn't something he was okay with until kids. And it really makes me feel, understand a bit more about where men are coming from with affection. And John and I were both looking at that one section where it was one plus one. What is the equation? I don't remember now.
1 + 1 = 3, I think is what he
One
said.
plus one is greater
Yeah.
than three or less than three. I don't remember, but whereas it's your partner that, how you pick your partner is who you pick as your partner to help raise your kids is huge in his. Can't see that one, but
1 + 1 is greater than 2 is what it says.
yeah,
Yeah.
one plus one is greater than two because of it's picking your partner. And females think about that in a way where it's a man is strong, take care of the kids, take care of the family, protect.
The 1 + 1 is greater than 2. I think what he was trying to get at is when you're by yourself, you really can't accomplish as much as if you had another person. So, like, if you were two individuals, you would not be able to accomplish as much as if you were a couple. Because the big thing that he was talking about was being able to rely on the other person for when you are weak and you are showing weakness, and having the other person being able to stand behind you and stand up for you or even push you along for when you need it. And because he was even talking, everyone's going to have their bad days. And he even says that. And, he doesn't want to put it outward to people that he loves. And so having 1 + 1 is greater than 2 was something that helped him become more than what he is today. That's really what I took out of that. And I agree with it 100% wholeheartedly. And I think that's something about, families and, well, anything, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't even have to be a family. It's just like anyone with a relationship. It could just be your best friend or whatever. Um, I mean, hell, Kenny, like with all four of us now talking on a regular basis, I've been feeling so much better about it all, to the point that I've even heard it out of other people's mouths. Like, man, I needed that. It's one of those things that I always come back to saying, like, yes, I agree.
Agreed. And I think too the thing to point out is that equation is not linear, right? It's not additive. It's
Mhm.
exponential, right? 1 + 1 is not equal to in that situation. It's greater than 2 because if you even individually, if you add both of those things together, the two of you combined is still greater than that, right? And
Yeah.
I think you can see this in any type of relationship. And I'm going to throw in some of my own philosophy here that's a little bit outside the book. I have a personal philosophy on relationships in that they're all the same. The only thing that's different is context, right? So you've got your friends, you've got your romantic relationships, you got your coworkers and colleagues, you got your family, right? The only thing that changes is the types of things you do with them. But ultimately, they all require the same type of thing. They require nurturing, they require communication, trust, right? Attention
Mhm.
and caring, right? And genuine authenticity. They require a lot of the same things. It's the context that shifts. It's what comes from each one of those things, right? And when you look at this, like even if you think about this in a work scenario, 1 + 1 is still greater than 2 as long as all of those things exist as well: trust, communication, etc. Like because you'll bounce ideas off of each other and you'll both make each other greater than what you would have been solo, even additively, right? And I see this kind of applied to just about every type of relationship. And don't get me wrong, there are some relationships that are subtractive. But I think the point of this is to try to do less of that, try to remove those if you can, but focus on those ones where you do just add to each other. And you're right, when it comes to this cast, like we all make each other better, and that's what makes it interesting. and we've got a very good dynamic. But I think too, just in the context of all relationships, that everybody tends to make each other better if it's done the correct way.
Yeah, absolutely. If I had to rate the book, I would say it's probably a good solid 8.5 out of 10. I do recommend it. So, how do you guys feel about it?
I think I agree. I think this is a good 8.5 in my book. Like, I loved this book because I found that it kind of hit some points that I really needed to look inward for a little bit. I like the formatting. I like the way that it's easy to digest. I like the informality of it, and just the overall message. This was probably one of my favorite self-help books. It's not pitchy. It's not trying to sell you a concept or sell you something. It's here to just literally help you like look inward and think about yourself for a minute. And I really liked that.
Absolutely. 8 out of 10. Even going back to the fact that I have never finished a book, I was able to finish this one. It had great concepts, easy to read. And I do have a great point that is perfect that he says in the book. And it says, don't ever let your wife be cold or hungry. And I agree with that completely.
Oh, thanks for plugging that. It's on record now, everybody, just so you know.
Let her use the damn blanket, John.
Oh, yeah. I am.
Yeah.
I get cold. I'm sorry.
Well, I think that's a great segue. So that was our January book, and I know not a lot of us were able to sit down and read it. I'm glad that a few of us were able to. Our February book was picked out from a bigger group, actually, and I have it right here, right? Okay. It says, what you got here won't get you there. How successful people become even more successful. I have not even opened this book yet. I've done this because that's fun, but I haven't read the book at all. And I'll read just a little bit of the back. It says, your hard work is paying off. You're doing well in your field, but you can't escape the nagging feeling that something's holding you back. Something's stopping you from getting to the next level. The strangest thing is that you're doing everything that got you this far. So it kind of felt me like, okay, this is great because a lot of us have been successful and not everything works in every environment. And so I'm really curious what this book is going to bring because I have no clue.
I'll say I was enticed by this book just by the title alone. And this is because I do a lot of mentoring. And one of the things that got me is trying to explain to people, just because these are the things that you've learned and known in your life does not mean that you don't continue learning to progress what we're doing right now, right? And that's a lot of work-related stuff in my mind. Like, what got you here literally will not get us there. That helps us learn what we need to start getting there, but we need to continue growing to get there. And I've had to share that with folks. Some people like hearing that. Some people really don't. And I'm really interested to see how this book kind of frames that and if it's a challenge or not, as far as challenging us to think differently, or if it's really just, is it just the title? Is it as simple as that? So I don't know. I'm kind of curious about this book. It looks really good. I'm excited.
I read the first 3 pages. I'm already hooked.
Well,
that says something.
She's read more than I have.
And that's because I didn't have enough time to read more, but I really am already looking forward to reading that one.
Yeah, so if any of you want to join us on this one, again, remember we'll have the Discord and we'll put the link in the description of this video. And also, we'll be chatting about this one in another month. And so if there's any ideas for the month of March, put your comments in the video here or put them in the Discord, and we'll see what we can bring up for the next month. But I'm looking really forward to February. What Got You Here Won't Get You There by Marshall Goldsmith.
Thank you all for listening. Thanks for joining us for our first attempt at a book club. We're all really excited about this. All of us love reading these types of things. And it's going to be really interesting to see who joins us in the future and helps us learn more about ourselves. I really enjoy this type of stuff. So thank you all. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.